neurohypophysis. What is this neurohypophysis? So as already I have said, it is a posterior part of the pituitary. It is extension of the neural tube, and it contains a lot of neuroglial cells. So now pars nervosa, it is also called pars nervosa. Unlike, it has very few, it have very few cells. It doesn't secrete anything, it accumulates. That is what the difference, what we have to remember. It accumulates a large amount of secretion or the neurotransmitters which is secreted by the hypothalamus. And which part of the there are around in this neural tissue contains some 1 lakh unmyelinated axons, which are unmyelinated axons whose neuronal body is present in hypothalamus, and it secretes from two nuclei. So, that is the supraoptic nuclei of hypothalamus, paraventricular nuclei of hypothalamus, and they highly branch, and then we see these axons are supported by highly branched glial cells. They are the glial cells. So, do you remember what are the glial cells? If you remember, in central nervous system we talked about the astrocytes, then we talked about oligodendrocytes, and we talked. So, these astrocytes here gets modified, and they are also called here because they are present in the posterior pituitary. We call them as pituocytes. So, we call them as the pituocytes. Okay, and then this is what we can see, and we can see the collection here, and we can see these small pituitates highly branched, and these are the secretions, collection of the secretions coming from this unmyelinated cells and the axons. And these are two hormones. One is antidiuretic hormone ADH and oxytocin accumulation, and second is oxytocin. Do you know ADH, antidiuretic hormone? If you remember, in physiology you must have talked about ADH receptors. Where they are present? Do you remember that? It is present on somewhere on nephrons. Which part of nephron where is highest amount of fluid retention can be done? Its name is there, antidiuretic hormone. So, it reabsorbs more water. There are these receptors present on distal convoluted tubule, and this distal convoluted tubule has the there is a receptor for ADH, and this ADH acts on that, and it makes sure that adequate water is reabsorbed. So, it prevents from dehydration. Another thing which acts very clearly on the gravid uterus or the musculature of uterus, we call it as oxytocin. Also, second function of oxytocin is that after the birth of the child, it contracts the uterus tremendously to help in involution of the uterus. The uterus which has enlarged a lot, it helps it to go back to its normal size. One. Second thing, oxytocin, we call when mother looks at the baby, what happens? This is called let down reflex. Mother takes the baby near to her, applies and then she can lactate. What is one of the thing? One is the production of the milk is basically governed by prolactin, but the secretion of the milk and contraction of the muscles around the ducts of the mammary gland is held by the oxytocin. That is what we call as let down reflex. Now, these secretions which are coming from the hypothalamus gets accumulated in the posterior pituitary, and they form a light pink color structures. We call them as hearing bodies. That is what we can very clearly distinguish it from the pars radialis. That is faintly eosinophilic structures. And next, we will be talking about the thyroid gland in the next lecture. Thank you.